Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by Maller Grodner Attorneys, providing legal services to clients and the community. Understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis. LawMG.com. IU Center for Rural Engagement, extending IU Bloomington resources to improve Hoosier lives in partnerships with communities and organizations. rural.indiana.edu. Smithville Fiber Internet Security Solutions and Voice in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. Bunger & Robertson Attorneys at Law, utilizing 75 years of experience, knowledge, and resources to help individuals and families recover in personal injury matters. Information at lawbr.com. And by WTIU members. Thank you.
Coming up on Indiana Newsdesk. Women make up half the population in Indiana, but they have less than a 30% representation in the state legislature.
We know that when women are in office, they are more likely to introduce bills on women's issues. They're more likely to vote for bills on women's issues.
Indiana remains one of 18 states in the U.S. to never had a female governor. Plans for a large data center in Monrovia has residents worried about its effect on the community.
Is it a situation where we need to move? You know, inevitably, our property value is going to go down, and everyone surrounding this, your property value will go down.
Morgan County commissioners are expected to sign off on a plan next week. And we'll talk with the executive director of Beacon Inc. about legislation targeting the state's unhoused population. These stories and more right now on Indiana Newsdesk. Welcome to Indiana Newsdesk. I'm Joe Wren. Well, today could have gone much differently at Mooresville High School had a student not tipped off the FBI that their friend was possibly planning a school shooting. And because of that tip, 18-year-old Trinity Shockley is being held without bail at the Morgan County Jail. Shockley had told a friend on the app Discord of her plans and that she had access to an AR-15 rifle and had ordered a bulletproof vest. The police affidavit tells a story of a teen obsessed with school shooters who had sought mental health assistance. For more, we're joined from Mooresville by Clayton Baumgarth.
Thanks, Joe. I'm standing here in Mooresville, just outside of the high school. Now, I spoke with one of Shockley's neighbors who was awake when they were taken into custody 2 days ago. She described Shockley as kind and sweet. Shockley, who lives with her father in an apartment on the north side of Mooresville, is described in the police affidavit as identifying as a transgender man named Jamie. The probable cause affidavit refers to Shockley using she, her pronouns. Shockley used Jamie in the text messages that led to the police action. Shockley said she was planning Parkland Part 2 for a year, referencing the high school shooting in 2018 that killed 17. On Monday, Shockley texted 4 more days. Officials found numerous references to mass shooters Nicholas Cruz, Dylan Roof, and Andrew Blaze. Shockley even told a school counselor this week she was in love with Cruz. Police say they were familiar with Shockley from an incident in 2022 when Shockley was struck by a suspected drunk driver while crossing the street to her school bus. Now, I spoke with a community member who remembered Shockley from that event, and while she says that Mooresville is staying strong through all of this, she hopes that at the end of the day that compassion wins out.
Every time there's an event that occurs, they come together, and I hope there's also compassion for Trinity, regardless of who, how, or why. It's a human being, and a human being that has a past.
Shockley is scheduled to appear in court on Tuesday. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Clayton Baumgarth.
Okay, thank you, Clayton. A House bill being floated in the General Assembly is taking aim at the state's unhoused population. The bill would specifically create a Class C misdemeanor for camping, sleeping, or using long-term shelter land owned by the state. The charge carries a maximum penalty of 60 days in jail or a $500 fine. Opponents of the bill say it will, among many things, overburden local police resources. We're joined now by Reverend Forrest Gilmore, the executive director of Beacon Inc., which provides support for Bloomington's unhoused population. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Absolutely.
Seems like that this bill is unlikely to pass, but it's kind of part of this nationwide trend to criminalize those who are unhoused. What's your take on this bill? Would it help?
Oh gosh, I don't think it would.
Yeah.
I mean, the biggest thing about this bill is it's created by an out-of-state think tank, lobbying firm that is pushing a specific agenda that's not really about local solutions and caring about people that are here in our own communities and how we address that problem locally. They're really trying to impose a kind of national, and I would say really harmful ideology on many communities throughout the country.
Bloomington City Council rejected a similar ordinance last fall. What's the city's take or position now on its unhoused situation?
I think it's diverse, but the new mayor has been doing a lot of work to help us bring together us all around a common kind of approach and direction, and I think that's making some progress. It's slow going, but we're working together to make that happen. So I think that's very positive. There's a lot of work to be done, but it's a complicated situation.
Now, lots in the news, especially on a national level, slashing grants, funding for just about everything. Are you concerned about funding there at Beacon Inc.?
Well, we were one of the victims of that freeze that they had a few weeks ago, and that made us very nervous. We're particularly nervous right now about what's going to happen if there is a government shutdown in March. That's the big challenge. But the real concern now is if funds get turned off, will they turn it back on again? And almost all of our housing support, the things that really create solutions for people, is funded federally. And to lose those funds would be just very dramatic. It would put hundreds of people, adults and children, experiencing back into homelessness.
You're also at a time where you're planning a new Beacon Center, I believe on West 3rd Street. Tell us a little bit about where it is and progress.
Sure, we're working on a new center, very excited about it, bringing together a lot of solutions-based kind of practices into one space. It's on 1201 West 3rd Street, the old Weddell Brothers property, just south of Rose Hill Cemetery. And we're very excited. We've raised about, it's an expensive project. We've raised about $15 million of the approximately $20 million cost so far. So excellent progress, but still some to go.
Just a few seconds left. What can people do to try to help those who are unhoused?
I think the biggest thing is to support organizations that are doing more than just meals and a bed. Really look for organizations that are working on solutions.
Thanks so much for being on the show. Appreciate it. Indiana ranks 39th nationally in percentage of women in the state legislature, just behind South Dakota and just ahead of North Dakota. Just 27% of Indiana's 150 seats are held by women. And as Benta Boutier reports, the relative shortage of women in decision-making positions has consequences in policy.
This is Chrissy. Hi, darling.
Hi.
Good to see you.
It's a busy day for Indiana State Rep Tanya Paff. Sessions in full swing, and the Vigo County Library, her local branch, is here with the Indiana State Library Association.
Then we're going to go down to Indiana State University because ISU is also in the house today. What grade are you now, sophomore? Okay, and you are biology?
Environmental geoscience. Paff is one of 40 women in Indiana's state legislature. Illinois has 43%, Michigan 40%, Kentucky 31%, and Ohio 29%. Paff wasn't aware of the numbers 6 years ago when she saw her local state representative was retiring and saw an opportunity.
I called my husband and I said, you should run for office. You should run for state rep. He's like, no, you run. I'm like, me?
A math teacher in Vigo County, she decided it was time to get involved in state decisions on public education.
I was like, I guess I could run, having no idea what the numbers of women and men were or how despairing the numbers are. I had really no idea at the time. However, now that I look back at it, my primary was me and 4 men.
Women make up about 50% of Indiana's population. A political science researcher at Notre Dame says the disparity in representation affects what bills advance, get carried, and how much interest Hoosier women have in politics.
We know that when women are in office, they are more likely to introduce bills on women's issues. They're more likely to vote for bills on women's issues. They're more likely to give speeches on women's issues.
Schrader adds more representation also changes how women discuss these issues with their male counterparts in the legislature. Nevada became the first state with a majority women legislature in 2018. New Mexico has the second highest number of women representees. Nationally, women legislators are more likely to vote on and introduce bills focused on women's issues, but also healthcare, education, childcare, and family support. As a policy advocate for United Way Indiana, Ryan Myers spends most of her days at the State House during session. While her organization's goal of ending poverty isn't gendered, the issue has a disproportionate effect on Hoosier women. Out of Indiana households in 2022, those headed by a single woman had the highest rates of financial hardship, at 75%.
When you think about things like women being primary caregivers in their families, statistically at higher rates for children or for other members of their families, when you think about the gender wage gap that we know still persists in Indiana and across the country, all of those things then tie back into women's economic security and women facing poverty at higher rates than men. And so even though it's not explicitly called out in our mission, gender plays a big role in so many of the issues that we talk about and that we talk to legislators about.
The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics reported that in 2022, Hoosier women who worked full-time made a little more than 77% of the median weekly earnings of men, one of the largest pay gaps in the country. University of Indianapolis research shows state legislatures with more gender parity have narrower pay gaps.
After COVID hit in 2020, in the first 3 months, 90% of the workforce who left was women. We lost 50 years of economic empowerment in that brief period of time, and trying to build that back will take decades and maybe longer.
Carclich adds the state legislature is showing an interest in child care tax credit and addressing the rape kit backlog. But she says 1/4 of Indiana's counties are maternal health care deserts, and another 28% have limited care, issues that are harder to move.
It doesn't matter if you're a woman or a man, you're coming from a background that has a different ideology, but we have found that many women are much more receptive, regardless of where they sit on the aisle, to discussing women's issues.
Carclich says women face barriers running for office. Work and family obligations and the pay gap means an uphill battle for self-financing a campaign. Schrader says one reason for Indiana's low representation is that it's never had a woman governor, but voters are favorable to women candidates.
We don't see much evidence anymore that voters discriminate against women candidates.
Schrader adds Republican women are less likely to run for state office in Indiana. Of Indiana's 40 Senate seats, Republican women hold 7, and Democratic women hold 3. Of 70 House seats held by Republicans, 15 are held by women. Of the Democrats' 30 House seats, half are held by women.
At the end of the day, we need more women to run. So it would be great if somehow we could motivate women to see the importance and value of coming here and having their voices heard.
When you run for office, it will take a village, but I hope every person watching this will take it under serious consideration to find ways to engage in their communities.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Benta Boutier.
Indiana's first woman legislator, Julia Nelson, was elected in 1920, the same year a woman got the right to vote. Ivy Tech will close its Diversity, Equity, and Belonging office on March 12th, dissolving 31 positions across the state, including one in Bloomington. The move follows proposed legislation prohibiting state funding for DEI programs. Ivy Tech says the responsibilities of the office will be transitioned to other positions and departments, but the college remains committed to the office's values.
The responsibility of making sure that our students feel welcome on campus is incumbent upon every one of us who work at the college, and we are all committed to that mission, and that will continue.
Ivy Tech is funded primarily by the Indiana General Assembly, federal grants, and student financial aid. Indiana Governor Mike Braun has asked the chief of the U.S. Forest Service to scrap the Buffalo Springs Restoration Project in Hoosier National Forest. The Forest Service plans to cut down trees, do prescribed fires, and use some herbicides on thousands of acres near Patoka Lake. Braun voiced concerns about the impact of recreational use of the forest. Environmentalists worry clear-cutting would erode areas around the lake, could pollute the drinking water for 65,000 residents. The project is expected to be implemented this month. 2 more commercial egg producers in Indiana have been hit with bird flu. The Indiana State Board of Animal Health announced this week 2 flocks totaling 2.6 million birds have been infected and are under quarantine in Jay County. Since the start of the year, they are the 9th and 10th in the state to have a confirmed bird flu outbreak. The Columbus downtown riverfront redevelopment is getting a redesign, but without the recreation and in-water features. That's because cost since the project began in 2016 has more than doubled. The parts of the design moving forward are the safety issues. Erosion, a century-old dam, and landfill embankment all need to be fixed.
It's sad that we have to give up on something that we felt like would be a huge amenity for the community, but you know what, those safety features are really important that we take care of those.
The last bid for the project came in at over $20 million. Verdon says the city has state grant money it needs to use on the project. Coming up next on Indiana Newsdesk. Morgan County officials seem to be on board with the proposed data center, but residents of Monrovia aren't so sure about it. And it's Valentine's Day. Flower shops have been busy preparing the perfect gifts for sweethearts and loved ones. These stories and more right here on Indiana Newsdesk.
To what do I owe this pleasure?
It's showtime!
It's what I love doing.
Your love for your little boy shines out.
This story is mine, and no one is going to tell it but me.
We need an undercover operation. Starting to enjoy myself.
That is absolutely perfect.
Asking tough questions to those in power.
There is this consensus that Democrats are somehow out of touch with the voters.
All of us have to do a better job of seeing the very real pain that exists across this country.
What did you make of the high degree of dysfunction within the Republican conference?
I always felt that it was broken.
And covering events as they unfold.
This continues to be a dangerous situation. Almost everyone is either evacuated or lost a home in this fire.
Welcome back to Indiana Newsdesk. An unknown developer has proposed building a data center on 390 acres of farmland in Monrovia. As Clayton Baumgarth reports, Morgan County officials seem to be on board with the plan, but the community has a lot of unanswered questions.
On his first full day as president in his second term, President Trump announced the $500 billion Stargate project, a multi-company effort to build AI infrastructure and data centers throughout the Midwest.
Beginning immediately, Stargate will be building the physical and virtual infrastructure to power the next generation of advancements in AI, and this will include the construction of colossal data centers, very, very massive structures.
And in October, financial company Blackstone estimated the U.S. would see $1 trillion investment in data centers over 5 years, with another $1 trillion being committed internationally. Now, Indiana is beginning to see those investors propose projects throughout the state, to the surprise of many nearby residents.
I learned about it the day before yesterday on the news. So, there's the first problem, right? It's 0.7 miles from here. So, it causes concerns.
Boulian inherited her father's 30-acre property and planned to use it for growing wildflowers, cash renting to farmers, and generally settling down.
I just walked through here. So it's the neighborhood and then the data centers.
But now that a data center could be coming less than a mile away, her life plans are more uncertain.
We don't know what would happen. Is it a situation where we need to move? Inevitably, our property value is going to go down. And everyone surrounding this, your property value will go down. Look it up.
Data centers can use anywhere from 10 to 50 times the energy of a commercial office space. So what does that mean for local energy bills? They also use about 6 million gallons of water a day. What could that do to the local watershed? And then there's the noise. Data centers have been reported to produce 55 to 85 decibels of noise to their neighbors, which is as loud as either a conversation or police sirens 24/7. How loud will this data center be? These are questions residents brought to an informational meeting at the Monrovian Christian Church 2 weeks ago.
All of the initial planting requirements under the zoning ordinance.
Serious question. What do we as citizens have to do to ensure that you do not get the zoning issue? We clearly do not want you.
That's not a serious question.
Yes, it is.
They left feeling even more concerned.
What is the benefit to the community? What will this do for us? That question was asked, it was not answered.
The developers say many of the questions can't be answered because they don't know the exact technology they'll employ at the site. They also can't speak on the benefits, including how much tax revenue they could bring to the town, because they plan on pursuing a tax abatement. The lack of transparency includes town council members who are required to sign a non-disclosure agreement if they want to learn more about the project coming to their backyard.
It would have been nice had the county had this group, had somebody come and more formally maybe, can't tell you who we are, but they could have shared some of this stuff and it would have been better.
A week later, the Plan Commission voted to recommend rezoning of the land to the Morgan County Commissioners despite opposition from the community.
Data centers are coming, whether we like it or not. The state of Indiana is on a list of top 5 states ready for this type of infrastructure.
The Citizens Action Coalition, a consumer environmental advocacy group in Indiana, shares many of the same concerns over data centers, particularly where the energy will come from.
A lot of the power brokers in Indiana are using data centers as an excuse to push for things like keeping coal plants online, building out new natural gas power plants, or pursuing really risky and expensive small modular nuclear reactor technology. So we're really concerned about that kind of trajectory.
Some residents ask, why Monrovia? Innskeep says the companies want land that's easy to develop and access to high voltage power lines.
These data centers are not siting in specific Indiana communities because of the subsidies that are being provided, but rather it's because these specific sites on the grid are some of the rare spots across the country that can accommodate them at the speed and scale that they need.
This sort of development is just the beginning. The state legislature primed the pump for data centers in 2019 with House Bill 1405, which gives companies a property, sales, and use tax exemption on the purchase of data center equipment. Now, lawmakers are scrambling to create more guardrails for the industry. J.D. Ford's bill on transparency, if passed, would require data centers to disclose projected water and power usage.
If you're going to put that in a community, let's do some pre-work. Let's have some conversations and discussions on the front end. And I think so many times what happens is that we always get to the back end and people are upset and angry.
For Boulian and many other residents, they want their community to evolve, but they want it to happen without secrecy.
I am not against growth of our county and community. I want that. I want more people like me moving here that run small farms and businesses to come here, spend their tax dollars in the community and run their businesses from. That's how you grow a community in a town, not by building a data center, an empty box that's just going to suck up our natural resources.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Clayton Baumgarth.
And the week before Valentine's Day is the busiest time of year for flower shops. As Isabella Vesperini reports, the holiday serves as a major source of income for these businesses.
Mary M's Walnut House Flowers makes more money in the 2 weeks around Valentine's Day than in 6 months. Last year, employees worked until 1 a.m. the night before to get everything ready. This year will be no different.
Most generally, our hours are 8:30 to 5:30, 6 days a week. We're closed on Sundays, but normally this time of the week, we started putting bouquets and things together on Sunday of this week.
Condor said they start ordering ribbons for arrangements after Christmas and order roses in January. They ship in roses, as well as carnations, lilies, and daisies from Guatemala and Ecuador.
We ordered 8,700 more flowers and roses this time for this time of season. And I think our basic is what, maybe 2,500 a week of roses.
On Valentine's Day, they bring in 4 extra employees to help in the store and 4 extra drivers to make deliveries. For Bloomington's Floral Co., it's a struggle to get enough people to help prepare bouquets and make deliveries during the week of Valentine's Day. It's up to Sydney Harris and her mom to design over 100 arrangements themselves.
Designing you have to have like some education on it a little bit, some knowledge on it. We can't just have someone random off the street plugging flowers in arrangements.
They ship in flowers from the Netherlands, Mexico, Canada, and Africa. They get roses from South America, ordering 900 alone as early as October.
More of the older crowd likes red roses still. More of the younger crowd likes the lavenders, hot pinks, yellows, even oranges.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Isabella Vesperini.
That's the end of this program. Have a great weekend.
Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by Maller-Grodner Attorneys, providing legal services to clients and the community. Understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis. LawMG.com. IU Center for Rural Engagement, extending IU Bloomington resources to improve Hoosier lives in partnerships with communities and organizations. Rural.indiana.edu. Smithville Fiber Internet Security Solutions and Voice in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. Bunger & Robertson Attorneys at Law, utilizing 75 years of experience, knowledge, and resources to help individuals and families recover in personal injury matters. Information at lawbr.com. And by WTIU members. Thank you.